You're listening to Developmental, Property and the Mind podcast, where development industry insight meet mindset with Trafalgar CEO Joe Aboud. Join one of the property industry's most free thinkers as he explores the path to success and contentment.
Hi, my name is Joe Aboud and welcome to this episode of Developmental. I think our next guest could almost redefine the idea of fast talking. He's one of the most energetic people, commands a room, always speaks the truth, makes some tough calls. He's probably done some of the city's biggest site deals that we've heard of. He's been selling to most significant new communities in New South Wales. He's seen more than a few property cycles come and go, and without doubt, one of the most experienced agents in the game. And most importantly, one of the most trusted. Peter Chittenden is currently the Managing Director of the National Residential Business for Colliers International, a post he's held for 10 years. It's an interesting time for property development in Sydney, and I'm particularly interested to hear Peter's take on where things are at as we get to know him a bit more. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you.
So tell us what a day in your life looks like. Sort of what does your job actually involve?
Well, we have a number of different jobs, but the predominant one is project marketing, apartments, land and townhouses off the plan. What that means is that we would help a developer identify an opportunity. We would work that opportunity up on a plan and through a cash flow model, working with other experts such as architects, surveyors, perhaps interior designers, etc. We would build up the scheme and then we would work with marketing companies, PR companies to position the building into the market, and we'd introduce it as an off-the-plan opportunity, which means it hasn't been built yet, and then we would follow it through and settle it with our purchasers. So that's the full cycle. That's what a simplified version is, but we don't do all that in a day, but we do different sectors of that at different times depending on where the lifespan is of the project.
Well, that's a lot of work, eh? Can you remember the moment when you realised that this was your thing?
Yes, I can. When I left school, I failed my HSC, and that was a little bit worrying for my parents, but I kind of felt like I knew I would find what I wanted to do. I had the good fortune of working at King's Cross for LJ Hooker, and it was the only corporate company brand that existed at the time, company office. And I had a job which entailed rentals and sales, and because it was a bit of a blend at the time, and I just loved it. Like, I just knew everybody. Like, during the day, King's Cross was full of very interesting people. At night was a bit more trended towards a bit different, if I'll say that. But it's certainly changed now. But I knew every, pimp, prostitute, pub owner, you name it, I knew it all. And and it was quite an old elderly population. But the moment, getting back to it, was Bruce Berriford, who is a director. I managed a unit for him in the Meriton project on Victoria Street, and it was all furnished. It was fabulous. And I looked out at the view and thought, oh my God, look at this city. I want this. So there's a photo of me with my arms spread out, standing on his deck. He wasn't here, he was in America at the time. And someone took that photo, and I've still got it to this day somewhere. And I just knew then, I'm going to get this done.
So, like, you got so much passion for this industry. Why do you love it so much?
It keeps me busy. I meet some interesting characters. Some are just unbelievably fabulous. And then you get the crazy, wild ones, and ones that you actually don't want to see again. But I like the melting pot, and I think if you go back to that King's Cross experience, the melting pot of the different people there, that's what development is really in Sydney and other parts of Australia, and perhaps for the world for that matter. So I just like the interaction.
So it's not just the thrill of the deal or anything like that. There's a lot more, yeah?
No, well, ironically, the thrill of the deal, I do like the sale. Thrill of the deal can often be just more with the developer. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong with that, but I don't develop, and developer does, and I position myself as the best lieutenant a developer could have, essentially. So I look after their everythings. So that's what I do.
So, I mean, coming from that background myself, it's a lot to entrust in somebody. And, recently I've been trying to make some referrals to you about just that. And, I've got some friends and clients that are in the industry, a lot of them actually. Most of my friends are in that industry. I've kind of built my life around that. Yeah. The thing with that was, who do I find, or who can I trust to introduce to do the business? It's a lot of responsibility, and a lot of the times the difference between a successful or an unsuccessful deal. Yeah. In that particular case.
Yeah, so. And it's I say who would you trust to push $300 million of your money up against and let them help you deliver on it. So the thing is, with all that though, it just comes down, there's no quick deal, there's no quick outcome. It's the person who is performance driven, has evidence-based conversations and just makes it factual and does the job they promise to at the best they can. That tends to be a successful process.
You know, interestingly enough, for me personally, when I was actually building things a long time ago, and then I stopped one day because I couldn't find a Peter Chittenden in my life that I could trust to move that end product, and that made me really vulnerable. So when I worked out, all the risk profiling of what I was doing, I needed a Peter Chittenden in my life to be able to trust to be able to move that stock. I knew how to deliver the stuff, but one particular project I done, it just sat there for 12 months with some other pressures, government pressures and stuff that happened there, and we just couldn't move them. And it wasn't the product, but I just didn't have a Peter in my life, so to speak. You took an interesting path to get to where you are today. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you do go back to the King's Cross days, leaving there, the only reason why I did is because I wanted, again, more. And one of the interesting hurdles I came across was, I believed I was the best in class, but I was a young kid with attitude, but ambition. And I didn't want anything that I hadn't already earned. I never, ever asked for something I haven't already earned. That's very big for me. So then I applied for jobs with a number of companies that still exist, and all three of them said no. So to this day, I've never worked for any of those three, and nor will I. Not that I hold grudges, but in fairness to them, they did turn around and say, you need a degree or something like that. And I actually found out all the people that had degrees in the end at the time weren't as good a performers, that's my opinion, as the people on the street as such, and learnt their craft off the street. However, I wanted to prove them wrong, so I just went, right, I'm doing that too. So I went off and did a degree. I did a certificate for a year, then a diploma evaluation for a year, and then 3 years at Hawkesbury Ag College to get a degree. And then I tipped back and became a valuer just to tick that box. As soon as I got the ticket, I didn't want to be that anymore, so I was gone. And I bought for development companies, but I wanted to know all of it. So to do that, I had to have, development management roles, acquisition roles, sales and marketing roles. And I tasted the ones I didn't want to do, but I've spent the majority of the time in this one that I do want to do.
So what's different about the industry now compared to like 30 years ago?
I'd say we're way more progressive. A couple of things very noticeable, say in Sydney, flashback 10 years, if you had a project that you could list with 200 plus things in it, was like rare. And no one would back the fact that it would happen. I mean, you get land subdivisions, but now there's heaps of those. I think that's it. I think the technology and the way we can express and market our products are far more innovative and faster and better and clearer. Certainly the legislation and the promise that developers need to do is getting significantly better, and I think that's really important. There's nothing worse than having a poor outcome with someone's money, that's all they've got in their dream, and that's something that I've never been able to gouge the public. I've never gouged a developer with high commissions or anything. What's fair and is reasonable, and it's a long game. So the industry itself, with its bodies and its concentration, has got significantly better. I think the professionalism and the expectation, now that I've got a degree, I'll sign up to that idea because that's out of the way. I wouldn't do that again. But yeah, I think it's become more professional, and I think that's what it needs to be, because it's a massive obligation what we have.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved, from years gone by.
Yeah. I mean, look, from a negative point of view, we still take forever to get approvals, but that's a whole conversation which I think is probably best we don't go down.
Please don't start me on that topic, because we could be here for a while, my friend. Mate, so you're known for being pretty high energy, right? So where do you get your energy from? Where does it stem from?
Trying to be fit at different times. No, I just think you've just got to have a happy attitude. And, one of the things I say to, my team at the beginning of each year is you need to enjoy what you do. To enjoy what you do, you need to know what you're doing and concentrate. And, you need to have balance, I suppose. Not this work-life balance stuff is not what I'm talking about. It's really just have a balance that you're not the king and you've got to share and grow and watch other things happen and be, I've always had this opinion that if someone wants to meet me, I say yes. I mightn't say immediately now, and that's not me being the most important person, but they might want to sell their business to me, like their product or their service. So it's a yes always. And, you know, people like Stanley Queck or Gary Rothwell from Winton and Frasers or Greencliff, what Stanley was, one of my, you know, my mentor guys, and they would just, yeah, like, of course I would meet you, but maybe how about in 3 weeks' time? And that's the sort of stuff that's just really important. And with those sort of experiences, that's why I like what I do. It just provides me with learning.
I mean, you can learn a lot from those mentors, right? Like,
yeah, heaps. And you know, they make you, in terms of, you know, financially make you see things and do things. You follow their journey. And if they let you do that, and they actually don't know they're letting you do that, and they're the best ones, and it's an incredibly inspiring process. I mean, I'm here because of those guys.
They kind of get you to experience things without or by actually avoiding the pitfalls along the way, and you know, you don't have to go through the same mistakes that they may have sort of had to go through and learn the hard way. You get a little bit of an easier way through that.
Yeah, and I actually, just on the mentor piece, one of my best mentors, who will remain nameless, was a complete, and I could not learn more what not to do from him than anybody else. He taught me so much. At the time, God, I hated him, but now I thank him. Taught me how to not manage people, how to properly negotiate, be respectful, all the opposites to that, you know. He just, be disrespectful. I couldn't stand the ways. And I picked all that up and went, that's not who I want to be. So I had a whole category of learning on what not to do.
Yeah, I had a business partner once upon a time that, you know, was everything I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And when I left him, I kind of built a business around not what I didn't want, you know, and how not to treat people.
And it's important because the modern, and this is me now, turned 53 yesterday and becoming an old person, but telling younger people to say, hang in there, it might be shit, but hang in there because you're going to learn things that you don't want to treat others with, and just put in the stamina and you'll bust through that a stronger person and wiser because you actually put up with it.
And time does something. So one of my uncles once told me, he said, whatever you do, stick to whatever you do it the best that you can. And if you hang in there long enough, everybody seems to drop off and drop away, and before you know it, you just become the leader in your industry, you know?
Yeah.
Just by default, right? You don't even have to be the best.
Yeah.
You just become the best because everybody's sort of come and gone and dropped away and whatever. And, you know, he just said, just hang in there.
Yeah.
And in time, you will be the best, right?
Yeah. So I started this in 1985. How's that? It's ridiculous.
Mate, I hear you. Yeah. So how do you stay on top of it all? Raise a family, stay centered. I'm hearing surfing, yoga, all this sort of different things you do?
Yoga I used to do a lot of, but I don't anymore. But I bought a place actually with a yoga studio, so there's no excuse. How do I stay on top of it? Well, I've been blessed with a fabulous wife who is way smarter and supportive of me, and through that we've been able to work as a good partnership. So we couldn't work together, I don't think, because I'd always be right. Jokes. But no, but we get along really well, and I think that's really, you got to have a good, strong home life, and I think that's really important because it's so demanding and you can get caught up in things that can take that balance away. So, yeah.
So it's a matter of you build the house, she builds the home, is that? Or she keeps the home? Is that
She's
the idea?
probably better at it than me, I'm going to confess. She's named buildings with me and taught me through designs. I share. We have a philosophy of sharing, and I don't come home to the dinner table, she's cooked, and we don't talk work. You know, we have a open and healthy relationship. So that's I think that's critical, and that shouldn't just be around your wife. It should be a similar thing that you do with your peers and your mates and your friends that have to be girls or work people. I think if you can have that approach and attitude, you just have a better life. And it's easy to divert to angers and that's not going right or whatever. There's heaps of that, and I do that sometimes. But you've got to get yourself out of it because 90% of it's just outstanding and there's so much to look for and do and things. So I'm learning how to be a farmer, God forbid. It's been the 60 days of just taking that on, from drought to flood to fire to everything. And someone goes, why would you do that? Why didn't you stay in suburbia up in Sydney, Northbridge? And I went, no way, I would not swap that for the world because my learning curve, and it just kept me excited. And I've got to, on the weekends I go there and smash it out physically and then come into work here and I'm fresh and alive, you know, so to do other things that I've got to do. So I think it's just balance. It's just, but you got to have a healthy mind, healthy body and all that sort of stuff and have a bit of good luck.
Yeah, so I sort of took a similar approach to you. The difference was I bought a home in Dural, and that's kind of, you know, semi-rural in its approach, and it's kind of the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I often say to people that when I'm driving home, I feel like I'm going on holidays, and when I leave, I feel like I've just been on holidays. That work-life balance, not just work-life balance, but balance in general is so critical. And, you know, healthy body, healthy mind thing, absolutely. You know, we're involved in F45 and, you know, very things like that. I mean, one of the latest and greatest experiences that I just experienced was I kind of got the family into the whole F45 8-week challenge. But what was really cool was I'd been having an issue internally in the house in trying to get the cupboard to be a little bit more healthy. And every time you open up the cupboard, you can just hear things crackling. And the rule is if you can hear the paper crackling, it's not really healthy. It's not really good for you, right? So I convinced them to go down the road to this 8-week challenge. And then we started to, my wife was good enough to make all the meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Lo and behold, everybody now loves the meals, loves the snacks, loves all of these things through there. Yeah. And all of a sudden, everybody seems to be eating a hell of a lot healthier. And and the energy's different. You know, it's not little kids bouncing around because they're tripping on all of the sugar content that they've just consumed. It's just a different place altogether. Yeah. You know? Yeah, awesome stuff there. Have there been any times in your career when you've questioned what you did? Like, you know, I'm having second thoughts now?
Well, yeah, I have. But then it sort of quickly goes, what else would I do? But yeah, they're probably times when, you know, the market's come off and we're pushing it uphill and really trying everything we can do. We've got an emotional developer because he's got an emotional or she's got an emotional banker or financier or joint venture partner, and it just sort of snowballs. And you know you're doing everything you can. But sometimes, you know, it could be part of your team isn't firing for whatever reasons, and that can do your head in, I suppose. But you've just got to move on and do something about that because that you can manage. But those days would be far and few between. I think I say this story 1,000 times. You know, the amount of times I can be in an aeroplane and look over and go, done that building with that guy, this person, that, and it's just I go, all right, that's all right. I like that. And then I try and remember some ones I'd forgotten, which is a bit embarrassing. I don't know if that's age, but I've realised how many projects that I've worked on and forgotten.
I had that experience a couple of weeks ago. Got a friend of mine, he was in an apartment building in V by Crown at Parramatta. Yep. So originally my office was there. Yep. And standing on the balcony of one of the apartments of V by Crown, I actually overlooked the whole Parramatta CBD. And then what was interesting is that same thought of not looking from a plane, but looking from a building, looking down at Parramatta CBD and knowing that, you know, we were involved in whether it's the redevelopment or whether it's the design of various DAs or CCs or whatever in various, you know, properties right around the CBD, and probably nothing more rewarding than looking down and saying, oh yeah, you know, I was involved. So I can totally relate to that. Man. So you moved from agency in-house with a developer at Winton, then you go to agency with Colliers, then to your own business, Realm, to one of the largest property trusts in Australia, back to Colliers again. Mm-hmm. What did you like about working for yourself?
Oh, the freedom of, you know, doing what precisely I wanted to do at any given time, and that was nice. But look, I probably liked it less than working in a company. That's just me. I found that the obligation, the romance of being the boss and making all the decisions, that was fabulous. But at the end of the day, I was all about, I had to get the new business, I had to hire, I had to list, I had to pay the rent, and it was a lot on me. And I have not been put on this earth to be the sole director of a business that I own. That I worked out pretty quick. But I can perform at my highest level with a platform like Colliers, and I've been able to do that. So it takes out of my mind the things that stress me. So it just means I've got a clear vision of what I need to do. So I did like Realm. It was fun. It was creative. It tested me. I learned a lot, but I'm glad I'm not there anymore.
Look, running your own business is not exactly the easiest thing.
No.
Let me tell you, I experience it on a daily basis. But each to their own. And I
Yeah.
think if you can work out where your strengths are and you work towards your strengths, it doesn't actually matter where you are. I often say to my employees and all my colleagues is you actually work for yourself. I'm just providing you a platform for you to work from.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you really, in essence, are self-employed.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to keep a job. You know what I mean? It's not my job to help you keep your job. It's up to you to keep your job, right?
Yeah.
So what do you like about the global nature of what you're doing now?
Well, if I wouldn't work for another, I'm just doing myself out of a job, but I would never work for another leading agency in Australia outside of Colliers. I think that, to give the company a bit of it aligns with who I am culturally and behaviourally and the inspirations and goals that it has. And, I've been lucky enough for the first time in my life to be sort of chosen as the leader and given that obligation and be on the, what was called the National Executive at the time. It's changed its name from time to time. So I have a significant responsibility that I don't take for granted, but we have a friendly competition between product lines, and it's just a really good place that I've been able to enjoy. I've never, not ever contemplated to be working somewhere for 10 years, just done 10 years, and it's been a dream. So I say to John Kenny, our CEO, my next job's on the beach. So you're sweet. If he wants me.
Keep you long enough, you reckon? What are some of the hurdles that you've had to overcome, like sort of in your career?
Well, I mentioned earlier, having a degree that was like a becoming of manhood or whatever it might be.
Get the monkey off your back.
And look, I can see the necessity of that. I think the biggest challenge I would admit now is that in the practice of leading a business like I have now, I think there's been two specific challenges. One is as we all get on and we develop habits, but we also get people around us who do things. And all of a sudden I realise those things they do for me that I used to be able to do, I can't do anymore. And that's kind of like been a bit of a challenge for me.
You become dependent almost?
Fully. Like I'm almost unemployable if I can't keep selling apartment buildings. But there's a lot of there's a lot of practical things around computers and things that I could do no problem. And I'm sure I could, but I just don't get near them. So that's one thing. But probably the biggest thing, I'm like good on the property piece, but I've never really studied the art or responsibility of management of particularly agents as much as I've had to do here. So I found and I do ongoing, the people part of property, because that's, in my part, we don't build the bricks and mortar, we sell people and their service, so they have to be at a top level, and that is probably the single most biggest challenge. And, our developers nationally or by team members, they want the same level of service, right? So that's why some agents find it difficult to refer some of them. I really like you, but they mightn't be able to be certain that you're going to give the service that that referred person expects. So all that stuff is really the hard part about. I would say people management is the single biggest challenge in what we do.
Yeah, people are really difficult to manage when it comes to work, constantly facing those things on a daily basis. And I think a lot like you, I don't come from that school of understanding that corporate management style of managing people, and there's almost an art to it. It's very political, and it's difficult at the best of times, man. And I'd rather take a more human approach to what I do. Yeah. And I'd rather somebody else do that stuff there. So that's kind of sometimes the way I deal with it. But sometimes you just got to stare it in the face and just deal with it. You just got no choice sometimes, and you got to make some harsh decisions at time. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it works well, and sometimes it comes back and bites you. So when you get to those really tough moments, right, you're staring at those really tough moments right in the face. What are the things that help you pull through it? Where do you go to, or what do you rely on to help you through those tough moments?
I suppose it's just an attitude. I find that is a hard question, but it's just an attitude to say that if I don't get my head down and get into this, it's not going to go away. I can't walk over the top of it and think it's going to fix itself. I've just got to take it on.
It's resilience.
Yeah,
got to be resilient.
and it'll be there tomorrow, the next day, if I don't address it now. So I mightn't be able to fix it now, but I've got to get on that journey to rip that Band-Aid off and get on with it. And I often find that moment where you're just going, how am I going to do this? And you just face it, and you realise when you peel it all back, you're halfway through it. Half of the barrier is what's inside your head, working out how to get it done. You just look at it and peel it all open, and next thing you know, it's like, hang on a second.
That was a lot easier than I
have
thought.
The afternoon off. I've solved that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that can-do attitude.
Yeah.
That, just get into it and it'll just sort itself out.
Have a go.
Just start.
Yeah, but make mistakes. That's fine. But have a go.
Yeah, look, and I think you are. You'd be naive to think that you're not going to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Most people think it's a problem, and they're actually afraid of that. When the mistake itself is the actual lesson in the journey. You know what I mean? And it's just a part of that growth and part of you moving forward and advancing, I guess. Yeah. Talk to me about some of the highlight moments for you. What brings you a sense of achievement?
I do like winning business, I have to confess. I just love the study and the wind-up and the rehearsals and the momentum behind getting that right. And having good competition means that I have to understand them, do a gap analysis, work the project out, have a complete strategy to get through it that is so thought through, and then be able to present it in the time that I've been given to get it all across is the thing for me. And,
but is there a standout?
I've got some projects on at the moment, and two of them happen to be with Seabus Property, which is the Randwick Newmarket job and the Egg, or the building above David Jones, which we're about to launch this year. They're amazing. But when I don't know how old I was, maybe 28, and I'll go back to, Gary Rothwell, where he trusted me with the Forum and Forum West, the 779 apartments, and I delivered on that for him. And that was a standout for me. And that back then, this is in 1996, so back then,
unheard of.
That's a lot of apartments.
Yeah, that's unheard of, that sort of volume. Not in 96.
Yeah. So we got through that, but then, just as a bit of a sideline, I held the biggest party in property ever, and I don't think it's ever been beaten. In that forum, in the forum, I don't know if you've ever been in the train station. There's like a copy of the Louvre. I had the Sydney Symphony Orchestra playing. We had painted bodies in the water, and it was just 1,500 people went on, and it's still to this day. So anyway, that's one claim to fame.
Can I help you break that? But we'll do it together.
Yeah, no problems.
I'm happy to commit to that.
I like parties. We extended it 3 times.
What are some of the characteristics you think that have led to your success?
Probably a short attention span. And I mean that because I don't give myself time to really get so deep in stuff to make the perfect decision. I just look at it and go, my first feel is probably going to be my best one. What do I think? Okay, and so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just one of my traits. Yeah. I just know I don't spend a lot of time. I go, I want that job. So some people might speak about the project or what that suburb is and the issues before I just go, no, that feels right, I'm after that, and then, or whatever it might be, helping someone buy something or listing something. But so that's that. I think just I suppose the energy level, just we're a 7-day-a-week business, and whilst I've been lucky enough now in my later years to not work that many weekends, there was many years of 7 days a week on call, go for a surf in the morning and then spend 8 hours on a construction site working up, trying to extract another couple of mil out of GR from just by understanding as it's being built and working it all up. And so you just don't get a minute. But you just got to have that willingness and to keep turning up and make it happen.
Hard work.
Yeah, hard work. And I
you can't replace hard work.
No, and anyone who's made the money out of property development or being part of that process without the hard work doesn't hang around very long. They either go in, go out, which that maybe all they wanted to do, or they lose it. Fundamentally, they don't. And all the people we deal with, well, not all, but most, have been around a long time. And whether the staff change or whatever it might be, but they've got this core value within their company, and that's why people join them. This is another cycle they're going to do, not just property cycle, but the cycle through the project from here's another one, and they have a fundamental understanding of what the buyer wants, and they know that the legacy, that sows the success.
I mean, part of why we've been doing a lot of these things is dealing with the fact that they don't actually get enough credit for all the risk, time, energy and effort that's spent in delivering from start to finish the project. Talk to me about some of the things you've actually had to learn.
Patience. I really have had to learn patience and make sure that's part of my characteristics so I can get more out of people. Not everyone works. I'm not saying I'm fast or anything. I'm just saying I have a speed at which I work. Everyone has their own speed, and to have that machine going well, you just have to have a bit more patience. I think the other thing too is not take some things so personally. Growing up, definitely I took a lot of things, not just at work, but things personally, striving to do this and do better at that, or someone criticising me and don't know why. And that's not an insecurity, it's more just I just couldn't cope with it, the venting. And so I think if I go, okay, well, that person's giving me constructive criticism for these reasons, I've got to take heed, take note and look at it. Now, that doesn't mean I have to still agree, but but often there's gems in that advice and things. So I think they're probably the two that I can really think of. I know it's probably not the answer that others might have answered, but they're really from my heart of sort of thing of what makes the person,
Yeah, the other bit about the resilience that we spoke about before kind of teaches you that at times you've got to start to learn that what people really think about you is kind of none of your business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and then that helps you just move on and not take things so personal. Look, I can totally relate to that. Mate, before we go, one final takeout for the listeners, one bit of advice that you'd give someone out there?
I think there's a couple of things, I suppose. If you stay on track, we talked about it earlier, you stay on track, you stay consistent, you put across consistent communication, you become, and you try and specialise. I think specialisation is really important. Being a generalist, it has probably a lower risk, but you don't get the rewards and you don't get to be put in a place where someone says he's or she's the go-to person in that area. I'm not going to talk to him or her about that bit, but this bit, yes. And you have to. And I think there's some underlying, value to that. So I education, willingness to collaborate, and my university days, I made lots of really, really solid friends, brothers, and they're my brothers now. And we have this sort of code. These guys are running some of the biggest institutions. We have this code that, you ring, you look after that person, it doesn't matter. And so you don't have to give them something, but you're there for them to give them the support. And I think from that mateship and bondship, be it male, female, connectivity is everything in what we do here. You must be liked and like others.
I think we met through one of your brothers.
Yes, we
Anthony,
did.
yeah.
There you go.
So,
That's exactly
mate, I'm testimony to that. Is that the way to put it?
Yeah.
So, mate, absolutely, that's how we met originally, and I seen that connection you guys had, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I would see him but once a year. But there's a loyalty there.
That's all part of friendship.
Yeah.
Real friendship isn't seeing each other so regularly.
No.
Far and few between, and it doesn't change. So, mate, absolute pleasure to have shared this podcast with you today. Mate, you've taught me a hell of a lot today, and really appreciate your time.
Thanks for listening to Developmental, Property and the Mind podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, available wherever you get your podcasts. Or to talk to Joe, visit trafalgar.com.au. That's TRIFALGA.com.au.